Hey, it's Rebecca, and welcome to Returning, a podcast to return to yourself and the wisdom within. I'm so glad you're here with me. Thank you for returning. Today, I am speaking with my friend, Nancy Levin. For those of you who don't know, Nancy is a best-selling author, a master life coach, a host of Your Permission Prescription, which is a great podcast. She's also the founder of the Levin Life Coach Academy and is a brilliant coach. I have worked with her. She offers in-depth coaching, training, and programs that really are designed to help us step into our calling. And she's great with boundaries and really good with inviting us to look at our shadows as a way to really step into the work that we are here to do. Well, Nancy, great to have an excuse to talk to you, as always. I've spent this morning, you gave me your beautiful journal, your beautiful new book.
Yes.
When I was about to go out on stage at I Can Do It. Yeah, it was just such a lovely moment. And I could feel just how it was just like such soul medicine, such a soul calling, this book. And so, first of all, congratulations. I've been, I do love a workbook so much. It probably reveals something about my shadow.
Right.
But yeah, I've spent this morning, I've been doing some of the meditations and going deep into it. And oh my gosh, it's, really, really transformative. And I think that many people are like afraid of the shadow work, but don't see how intrinsic it is to their gifts as well. And so like for you because I know this is work that you've been doing for many, many years. What brought you to this work? Was it a trigger of a shadow that brought you to this work?
First, I have to say how delighted I am to be here with you, and that the fact that you, the meditation queen, has such kind feedback around my meditations that I included in the book, because I do love the whole QR code thing in the book. And
oh my God, so good.
Isn't that cool? I know, I was so excited about recording the meditations. So what brought me to this work? So as you well know, I was the event director at Hay House for 12 years. And I always say I had a front row seat and a backstage pass to all of the authors, all of the teachers. And, I would be witnessing them all sharing their teachings as they were speaking on stages. And it wasn't until my own personal crisis, which came in the form of me blowing up my marriage, that I was really able to let the teachings inside of me. And of all, listen, and you know this, I was so close with Louise, so close with Wayne, so close with so many, of the luminaries in the field of personal empowerment. And it was actually Debbie Ford and shadow work that took hold of me and really became the catalyst for me to look at myself, look at my shadow, really recognize the way that our shadow comes out sideways if we don't give it the attention it needs.
And say that again. Our shadow comes out sideways.
Our shadow comes out sideways when we don't give it the attention we need, which really is another way to say, I recognize that when we do not tell ourselves the truth, we create chaos. We create chaos when we avoid the truth. And we have to be willing to tell ourselves the truth first and foremost. And so that, was everything that I had been doing prior. And so it was shadow work that really was the catalyst for me to take a deep investigation of myself, to go on the archaeological dig within. And, I never in a million years intended to leave my job at Hay House. I never intended to become a coach or an author for that matter. And, I ended up really becoming unrecognizable on the other side of this work with Debbie that included going through her coach training and certification program, which I was just doing to know myself better. I wasn't doing it for an outcome out there.
And timing wise, did you start your work with Debbie before you blew your life up or after?
After. So, yeah. So, and the blowing my life up was really in the form of my then husband reading my journals in 2008 and discovering that I'd had an affair 8 years prior, which I now know was me setting a bomb to detonate because I couldn't tell the truth. I couldn't tell myself the truth. That, the version of me in the year 2000 didn't know how to say, I'm unhappy or I want out. So this is the shadow coming out sideways. And then
there was a quote that I underlined: when you don't consciously and intentionally do shadow work, you may experience self-sabotage, depression, anxiety, and other disorders of the soul. And I'm going to read it again. When you don't consciously and intentionally do shadow work, you may experience self-sabotage, depression, anxiety, and other disorders of the soul.
Yeah.
And I think this is really important because it's really easy looking back when we're like, oh, of course that's what was happening. But at the time, tell me, what are some signs that, maybe we should look at our shadow? Because I think until you can see what it is, it's hard to see it.
Exactly. And maybe I'll first, just for anyone listening who isn't familiar, although I would imagine, it's in the zeitgeist, it's in the lexicon, but for anyone who isn't familiar about what the shadow is, in this particular context, it was first coined by Carl Jung, and really it's our unconscious, and it's the reservoir in our unconscious where we put away parts of ourselves that we don't want to be and don't think we are, as well as parts of us that we would like to be and think we're not. So the shadow contains both the quote unquote positive and quote unquote negative. And we, when we're very young, we are getting messages around what's okay to be, what's not okay to be, what's good or bad. And we begin packaging ourselves to be palatable to everyone else, to fit in. And we start rejecting parts of ourselves. And so one of the ways that we can know that we really need to do some shadow work, which means reclaiming and retrieving these parts of ourselves we've disowned, is when we're aware of how numb we are. So when we are really depending on our avoidant strategies. For me, I was so focused on projecting an image of perfection to the world. And I was really invested in giving people a very specific lens to see me through. So I was really aware of the compartmentalization in my life. I was aware of hiding the parts of myself that I believed if you knew them, you wouldn't love me. So I need to withhold them. And in fact, I need to bury them. When we are extremely anxious, when we are feeling depressed, when we are recognizing that we're unable to achieve what it is we most desire, these are all indicators that it would do us good to investigate our shadow when we're feeling resentful, when, all of these things, because ultimately shadow work is going to return us to wholeness. I'm a firm believer that we are all whole. So I don't buy into the I'm broken. I don't buy into the you complete me. I really am a firm believer that we are all whole. It's just that we have lost parts of ourselves. We've disowned parts of ourselves. We've given parts of ourselves away. And everything is here. The invitation is to reclaim it.
Can you talk to this relationship between the shadow and the gift? Like,
yes.
The cultivation of the gift through the shadow, and then the shadow through embracing and alchemizing it, bringing up the gift more. What is the relationship between the two?
Yes. So first, what I'll say is from the outset, so from looking at this from the wholeness lens, we are everything. So every quality that exists in someone else exists within us. So any quality we see in someone else, we also have, no matter how emphatic we are about not having it. And this, right. And so this can create a lot of resistance. This can create a lot of confusion, righteousness around it. And that's just another quality to reclaim. So the gift, I like to play with it from both sides because, if I feel triggered, activated by someone, and I'm pointing a finger at them, you're so needy. And I pride myself on having no needs. So I have disowned needy. So first of all, they show up for me as a mirror to reflect my own neediness back to me. And the opportunity is to be able to reclaim it. And so what I need to then do is find my neediness inside of me. It may not look like someone else's, but I need to find the ways in which I'm needy. And even if it sounds silly, like to start with, because we might have so much resistance around being needy. So we have to first find, in what ways am I needy? And so one of the ways I'm needy is I'm short. I need someone in the grocery store to reach for something that I can't get.
Well, I can do that.
And it's silly. I know you can. I do love that about you. But as silly as that sounds, and for anyone listening who's really dug into their needs, there was a time I might have left the grocery store without getting everything I needed because I didn't want to ask for help. Because I made asking for help of any sort mean I'm weak, I'm not good enough, I'm not enough. But really owning my neediness, actually the gift of it is connection. The gift of it is allowing someone else to give to me when I'm used to being the one who gives to everyone, to be receiving.
So can we just go into that? Because I know that what you were praised for in your job when you're in Hay House was your lack of neediness, which you could say people saw that as your superpower. So what I'm interested in going deeper on here is this, and I can relate to it with myself as well, this how the shadow creates in a way a gift, but then you realize it doesn't serve you anymore.
Exactly.
But how to, because I think when you're up at the edge of like, whoa, I see the shadow, I see the trigger, I see the projection, I see the whatever. But then I don't want to lose this thing. Like I'm actually receiving from that gift as well. And so when it comes to shadow work, is it about? Tell me about the integration, the alchemy there. Where is it about? Like that lack of neediness for you when you realized it and you were like, oh my God, this is what I'm praised for, and I've just wanted the praise. Like, where do you go from there?
Yeah. So again, first of all, what I'll say is, yes, I prided myself in having no needs, no boundaries. My nickname was basically Queen of the Impossible, and I could do everything for everyone. And I crafted that persona so that everyone would see that. What happens is most of us relate to the either or. I'm either independent or needy. One or the other. Or whatever, the opposite of needy might be. There's many, or self-sufficient. Let's say that. I'm self-sufficient or I'm needy. The truth is, it's not about the either or, it's about the both and. It's I am self-sufficient and needy. But I spent decades of my life depriving myself of the other side of that, which meant that piece was missing from my wholeness. So I had invested in the image, in the identity of self-sufficient. And everything that came along with it, overgiving, workaholism, all of these pieces. Because what happens is when we deny a part of ourselves, we overcompensate. So the more I disowned needy, the more I overcompensated by being self-sufficient, by doing, by giving. And not only was that the way that I determined my own value and worth, but I deprived myself of this whole experience of actually being able to receive. And so the integration is in recognizing that it's not the either or, it's the both and.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And tell me, with our shadow, is it formed is there a period of our life where it's really formed, or can we continue getting shadow parts? Like what's the general consensus on how our shadow is formed?
Sure. I mean, I do believe that everything points back to under 10, when we're really in those developmental stages, when we are sort of, who do I need to be in order to be loved and accepted, or I learn it's okay to do this, it's not okay to do this, or I get love when I do this and I don't, and I get punished when I do that. So we're starting to craft, and it's not conscious in any way. We start doing that very young. And the same happens with our shadow beliefs, what we believe about ourselves, the conclusions we draw about ourselves based on the messaging we receive, based on our response and reaction to a specific event that occurs, because we don't know when we're that young. We don't know how to process and digest what's happening. We simply know how to make something mean something about ourselves. So we start drawing conclusions. So this is where we start with the I'm not good enough, I'm not enough, I'm unlovable, I'm not worthy, these beliefs. And then because they're in our unconscious, we move through the rest of our lives essentially having these beliefs reinforced by ourselves and by others.
So it's like we're gathering evidence of it being true.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. We're gathering evidence. Our beliefs are magnetic. So we tend to think that, for example, I'll feel worthy if someone outside of me gives me the stamp of worthiness. But it's really the opposite. It's the inside job of knowing my own worthiness, and then I will be magnetic for that.
So interesting. And I think it's particularly interesting because I've written down another quote of yours, which is, often the quality you reject, you tend to project onto others. Often the quality you reject, you tend to project onto others. Oh my God. For me, doing shadow work, this is the one that like cuts the deepest.
Yes. Yeah. And, both sides, because I will reject, lazy. I'll reject needy. I'll reject mean. I'll reject, these qualities, and I'll point a finger at everyone else around me, and there's 3 fingers pointing back at me. So anything I see in someone else exists in me. So I need to do that work to reclaim it. And it goes for the flip side as well, because I know there are so many of us who will look at people in our inner circle, look at people in the public eye, and we admire them. We feel inspired by them. We feel enamored, enthralled. And so we also have to look at those qualities that we're drawn to in them that we don't think we are. So also qualities like confident or creative or courageous or intelligent, brilliant, generous. So it works both ways. And, one of the things I love to share, because I think it really helps sort of land the concept of wholeness, is that I liken the process of doing shadow work to the phases of the moon. So we see the moon in the sky, and we might see a sliver, a crescent, a half moon, a full moon. Regardless of how much of the moon we see or don't see, we know it is whole. We know the moon is whole. We don't think, because I only see a sliver of it, somehow it's been cut. And we are the same. We are whole no matter how much of us you see or don't see. And the moon itself goes through the waxing and waning. The phases of the moon, it is at times concealing itself and revealing itself. And we are doing the exact same thing. We conceal parts of ourselves and we reveal parts of ourselves. And yet we are always whole. So one of the things that shadow work really allows us to do is stop concealing parts of ourselves out of fear, out of shame, out of disapproval. So that because I'm in no way saying we need to be fully 100% exposed all the time. There are certainly reasons we would decide to conceal, to withhold out of privacy or, not the right time with not the right person. But now we get to be discerning about what we withhold instead of withholding out of fear or shame or disapproval. So with shadow work, we have access to all parts of ourselves, to all of these qualities, and we can find their gifts. So there's a gift in all the qualities. The gift of lazy is I get to rest, I get to rejuvenate, I get to relax. But if I only stay in my hyper-productive workaholism and I don't give myself the gift of lazy, it will come out sideways. And it did. When I was in the height of traveling around the world with all the Hay House authors, I got a devastating, debilitating case of vertigo that literally kept me in my bed for about 10 days. And that, again, because I wasn't willing to give myself the gift of slowing down and resting and being lazy, and instead I overcompensated for it by the workaholism, lazy made itself known.
I so resonate with the workaholism. It's definitely been a area of healing for me. And I remember when I was younger, even just living in share houses, like there was this one moment where I like became aware of how much of a big shadow it was for me, where I'd been working hard. I was starting my business while also working in my previous career. And I just moved into this share house and was having some lunch and watching some daytime TV thing while I did it. Just like half an hour or an hour or whatever. Yeah. Resting, just chilling.
Yeah.
And then I heard the keys of my flatmate arriving back home. And I literally turned off the TV, got up and just pretended to be busy. I'm like, what are you doing?
That is exactly what we're talking about right there. Exactly.
And then when I reflected on like people I used to say manage or just people in my life, date even, I would get so triggered at their laziness or inefficiency or
And so the piece here is to know that anytime we are judging someone outside of ourselves and anytime we're fearing judgment. So if you're fearing, the person coming in with the keys, if you're fearing their judgment, or if you are judging the person on the date, it all originates within. So you can be sure that you are already judging yourself. Because and lazy was a big trigger for me as well. So as soon as I was able to get in alignment and in right relationship with my own laziness, I have no Velcro for someone else's judgment to stick to. And I am more compassionate about the quality. I may not like someone else's behavior, but I can be compassionate about the existence of the quality. And that's the game changer.
Yeah, that's really great. And I'm curious about the relationship with the gift then. Because if I explore myself, I definitely have the ability to go deep and detailed, which I think the hard work kind of does. I go to the depths and I can, stick at writing a book, for example, and things like that.
Yes, you can.
But then on the other side, I'm a splenic projector and I am at my best when I'm not being a workaholic. So tell me about like the alchemy of the shadow and the gift. Like, is it about like embracing it all, or like where's the balance there?
It is about embracing it all. And it is about being able to call upon whichever quality will serve you best in each moment. So that no energy is, or that I would say energy is no longer expended around hiding a part of yourself.
Oh, that's good.
Yes.
Yeah, so it's not about avoiding so you can call upon it. Yeah, because like
correct.
You do have an incredible ability to just be amazing and very efficient as well. Like you are very, very efficient still, like the way you run your business. Right. It's so efficient. Yeah. And so it's not about being like, I'm now going to be really like a non-perfectionist.
Nope. Right. No. I can be a perfectionist and a mistake maker. I can be efficient and I can be irresponsible. Everything is present here. And it doesn't mean I'm irresponsible and inefficient 24/7. And in fact, I may only be inefficient 10% of the time. But still, I have the ability to lean into my inefficiency. And it serves me because there are some things I do not need to give my detailed, focused attention to the way that I'm used to. So I can actually show up inefficient for this, for a meeting or for editing a certain document. It doesn't need my 100% efficiency. And I get to decide, what do I need to call upon in this moment that will serve me best? And the other piece of this is I had no idea how much energy and resource would return to me when I was willing to stop hiding parts of myself.
Yes, that's it, isn't it? While I was preparing for this, I've been I've had to review some of my writing, and there was one line that came to me. I'm like, I think this is the energy piece. Can I read it?
Please.
So it said, and this is the her is me, clearly.
Yeah.
It says it took getting to the middle of her life for her to realize that the thing she was running from was actually running her.
Yes.
And it signed off as burned out. And I think this is the really interesting thing when the shadow helps the gift and the gift helps the shadow, and how do we integrate it? I think there comes that moment, doesn't there, where you're there going, I don't necessarily want to change what I'm doing, say my career or whatever.
Right.
But I want to change the energy I'm expelling or the driving force of it.
Yes. Yes. I want to change the how I'm doing it, not the what I'm doing.
Right.
And I want to change the how in a way that I can show up in a way that is serving me. Yeah, we want to make sure that the way we're showing up is no longer about concern for how you perceive me, but that I'm showing up authentic. I'm showing up willing to make my needs a priority. Mm-hmm. And always checking around my own boundaries. If I have to cross my own boundaries in order to stay in relationship or in order to show up in any way, then that is another telltale sign that I'm not, paying close attention to the parts of me that need to be heard.
Amazing. Well, thank you, Nancy. You're such a gifted coach. I have had personal experience with, and I love your ability to really go to the depths, but also just translate things in such a just easy to understand way. And I think that your book does that so well. And I love all the meditations all through it as well. The way you introduce your meditations, I was really inspired by it. It reminded me of Louise.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, it did. Like you said, this is Nancy Levin, and I'm honored to guide you. I'm like, oh, that sounds like so good.
Oh my goodness. See, I pick things up by osmosis.
So nice. I love it. I love it. Oh, well, everyone go out and grab Nancy's book, Embrace Your Shadow to Find Your Light. It is a guided journal workbook, and it's way more than a book. It's way more than just a journal. Like, it'll really guide you through a process. So I can't recommend it enough. Thank you so
Rebecca,
much, Nancy.
It means the world to me.
And today's soul inquiry is, what quality do I most admire in others that I believe I don't have in myself? What quality do I most admire in others that I don't believe I have in myself? And once you have that, I want you to write a baby step you can take based on what came through for you today.